Welcome back to another Joblin tutorial. This time we're going to render inside MagicaVoxel. So, we've got a chicken here. His name is Fred. I ask you to treat him with respect and he will treat you with respect. Say hello, Fred. Thank you very much. Okay, so you've got your model. It's ready to be rendered. You're going to notice a big button in the top left that says render. You're going to click on that and you're going to notice it's going to transport you into this lighting view. So there's a lot of tools you can use here. It's quite an in-depth process. It doesn't need to be, but we're trying to get the most out of your scene here. So we want to look into things like lighting, background, positioning, etc, etc. So if you press all, you're going to get all of the options available to you here. First things first, I would recommend in the sample section you tick everything except pixelated. This just means that your scene is going to have the best possible lighting setup and it's going to be nicer on the hardware. So we're going to start with the angle. This is going to be the angle of the sun. So as you see, if I move it backwards and forwards, it's going to change the location of the sun. So if I go for 66, it's going to be underneath the beak here. And then this changes the location of the shadow. So I'm going to want the shadow, I'd say let's get it behind my lovely chicken here. The area is the area that this is affecting of the sun. So I don't want it to affect too big of an area. This is quite a nice lighting setup here, so we're going to keep it at that. The intensity is just simply how bright do you want the sun to be. So if you want it really dark, we're going to have no intensity. If you want it really, really bright, we're going to have the maximum intensity. And you can change the color. So if I want this to be blue around my lovely chicken here, it can be. I'm going to keep it white just for the moment because this looks better for the character. Or actually, would green work? No, I think I'm going to stay white for the moment, but I might come back to that. So with the sky, this works the same as the sun, except this is going to be more of your background here. So you can experiment with this quite a lot. Again, with the color hue, you can change the color of the sky. I'm going to keep it white. What I am going to do, you're going to notice you have three settings here. You have uniform lighting, atmospheric scattering, and image-based lighting. So this is quite good for a very natural looking scene. So if you're going for an environment, I would recommend, or something in the daytime, I would recommend keeping it like this. My preference is to go to image-based lighting. You want to double click on the HDR image, and this is going to pull up a drop-down menu. I'm going to pull up this one here. I think this just has the better lighting that I am used to. This is by no means the standard, it's just my preference. So you can change the rotation of the sky, of the image. This changes the lighting based on where the model is. I like this direction, so I'm going to keep it like this. Fog. So fog is quite self-explanatory. The higher the density, the more fog there is. My chicken's in Silent Hill right now, so I'm going to take him out. He's battled his inner trauma, and now he's outside the fog. So if you're going to go for horror themed or maybe like a misty dock, this is perfect. You can also change the color of the fog, so let's have it a bit misty. He's back in Silent Hill. We're going to make it very sinister looking red, which looks quite cool, but he's a peaceful chicken, so we're not going to need that right now. Your phase is just the density. Again, we don't really need this right now. So most of these settings are quite very minimal in their output. So most of these do what they say on the tin, and it's all about shaping the light to how you want the scene. I'd say probably the 2 or 3 most important ones here are the ground. So if you want the ground to be a green, which I do want it to be, I'm going to have it quite a light pastel green. So I think that's quite a nice color for the background for this chicken here. And then you can change the horizon. How far out does this go? It doesn't need to be very far for me because very small scene. And then the background, this is obviously going to be your background, but this is also dependent on the shape framing of your scene. So this is obviously be quite dark. So ground and horizon share more or less the same properties, but I'm going to want this horizon out of the way. So I'm going to have this nice and centered right here. Perfect. So you can make the background transparent or not. That choice is yours. So the scale. This is going to change the scale of your model. This is much more convenient way to transform it. So if I wanted a wider chicken, we can make him wider, we can make him thicker, and we can make him taller. I'm going to make my chicken a little bit taller, just because I think that looks better. He's lost his eyes somehow, but we're going to ignore that. There we go. He's got his eyes back now. So that covers essentially all of these things here. But I think the most fun option with MagicaVoxel comes in its shape options. So what this means is that MagicaVoxel can render your object in different shapes. So cube, self-explanatory, voxels are cubes. So this is the standard rendering. You can render it in the style of Lego. So as you see, if you zoom in, you can see that these are actually the top of Lego blocks. Then you've got MC, which would be Minecraft. So this is more of a voxel style similar to Minecraft. Clay, so it's going to have a bit more smooth around the edges. Sphere, so now it is made of spheres. And cylinders, it is made of cylinders. I'm going to stay with cube, but Lego is I'm a huge fan of the Lego filter. So now I'm sure you're thinking, Jack, these render options are really, really cool, but how does one actually render a scene? So, the way this works is you can render it 3 ways: photo, turntable, or animation. The way I tend to do it is in a turntable, and that just means it's going to have a 360 view, and that isn't done in the way of a traditional video. So there'll be image options here. If you open that up, you're going to have 3 options: photo, turntable, animation. Obviously, with your photo, you can change the width and height, but for turntable, what I like to do is change so the amount of frames you have is going to be how many frames that turns and what angle that turns at. So if I've got 6 frames and that turns at 360 degrees, that's going to have 6 frames of the different sides to make up 360 degrees. I'm going to render this in 30 frames. I'm going to have an angle of 360, so that's going to cover all of it, and it's going to cover it in 30 seconds. It's going to cover 30 photos. So if we press render, obviously we need to find somewhere for this to go in, so let's just put it in my Joblin Tutorials folder. So now what that's going to do, you're going to see at the top this line. This line, when that's completed, that's 1 frame. So that's 1 frame done just now. And this is going to come to the 2nd frame here. So it is a bit of a long process, and this does depend on how well your computer is. So as you can see, that's now going to turn. It will need to do this 30 times, so we're going to come back to when this is done, and then we are going to render this out. So the last step you need to do is go onto an image to GIF converter website. So I use EasyGIF. You need to choose your files, show files, and then upload all of these images. So if we go Shift, Enter, then we press that. So that's now chosen 30 files. Upload the files, and then wait for them to upload. Okay, so now that these frames have now all compiled, I'm simply just going to press Make a GIF. And there we go. This is your turntable. So it's quite slow at the moment, but that goes with your frames. So if you then go for something like 60 frames or 120 frames, that's going to become a lot more smoother. But this is perfectly fine for what it is. And you've now created a voxel, rendered it, and made an animation turntable of it.